1 in 10 Americans have diabetes, so you probably know someone who has it. So it might be surprising to you. We're challenging the whole presumption that diabetes exists, at least in the form that it's being presented. So what is diabetes? You have 20 trillion some odd cells in your body. Each cell has its own energy factory, and it's much like your last barbecue you had where you're burning wood. Your cell doesn't burn wood, but it burns sugar. Your cell takes the energy from burning the sugar and uses that energy to do all the things that you do, like walking, thinking, your heartbeat. Now, when you have a fire in the barbecue, you use a whole bunch of different ingredients. You use wood, obviously. You need some air. You need maybe some matches, maybe some newspaper to get it going. But you sort of regulate how much of each of these things are in the barbecue pit, and that's how you control to make sure the fire stays burning. Your cell does the same thing. It needs to keep the fire burning, and so it regulates how much of each ingredient is present. By the way, the ingredients include things like magnesium, oxygen, carbon dioxide, B vitamins, enzymes, and of course sugar. So we could talk about each of these ingredients, but right now we're focused on sugar because sugar is more relevant when we're talking about diabetes. But if you can just remember one thing about this burn, is that your cells can only tolerate so much sugar. This is a fact. They can only tolerate so much sugar. You probably know this from your own experience if you just think about it. If you were to go to Starbucks and order, let's say, 5 Frappuccinos, you can probably handle 1 or 2, maybe 3. By the time you get to the 4th Frappuccino, I would almost bet that you'd be so sick to your stomach that you have to run to the toilet to throw it up, because there's so much sugar in there and your cells can only handle so much sugar. But how does the sugar get to the cells? Well, that's pretty simple. Basically, you eat something or drink something, the food goes into your stomach and then into your intestines. From there, it moves into your blood in the form of sugar. Once the sugar's in your blood, it circulates to all your cells, and your cells absorb the sugar. Remember I mentioned a minute ago that your cells can only handle so much sugar. This is very important. Your cells need this burn functioning. That's how you get all your energy. If this burn stops working for only a second, you'll be dead. That's how critical it is. So now we get to diabetes. If your cells are overloaded with sugar, they simply close their doors and don't let any more in. That's diabetes. It's that simple. From our perspective, it's a good thing that your cells can do this. But this sort of scenario is being sold as some sort of a disease. So here's what happens. You have some health problems or not, but you go to the doctor, he pulls some blood and tests the blood. Notice that the doctor isn't testing your cells, he's testing your blood. He comes back with the results, bad news. You have diabetes because there's so much sugar in your blood. But the good news, he says, is that there is treatment that can control your diabetes. And so they give you some medication, and the medication forces the sugar into your cells. Remember I said earlier that when your cells are overloaded with sugar, they close their doors and stop taking sugar in? Nonetheless, the diabetes medication forces the sugar into your cells. To us, this is a disaster, but it can be sold as being a success. Because when you check your blood again, your blood sugar is normal. It was a success. It just depends on how you look at it. Let me give an example of a real life person. This person, he had diabetes for 30 some years. At one point I asked him, "Are you hungry in the morning?" He said, "No, but breakfast is the most important meal." By the way, this slogan came from a bacon commercial, and this bacon company hired a PR firm. This is the same PR firm that the government hired to come up with the slogan, "The war to end all wars." That was World War II. But anyway, this person wakes up in the morning and he's thinking, breakfast is the most important meal. But when I'm listening to him say this, I'm looking at his cells, I'm visualizing his cells, and his cells are screaming out, we don't want any breakfast. We don't need any more sugar. But he knows best, so breakfast is the most important meal. So he eats the breakfast and gets more sugar into his blood. Fortunately, the cells are built well enough that they can close the doors and not take in that sugar that they don't want. But like any good patient, he checks his blood sugar after breakfast to make sure it's not too high. But this day, it was too high. So what does he do? He takes his diabetes medication. And the diabetes medication forces the sugar that he just ate, that his cells didn't want, forces the sugar back into the cells. The way we see this is that the diabetes medication absolutely prevents the cells from recovering. It's almost as if, maybe this is a real simple way for you to visualize the different ways to see the diabetes. It's almost as if the cells, when they become intoxicated with sugar, they vomit sugar and they vomit into the blood. Of course, after they vomit into the blood, there's going to be a lot of vomit in the blood. In other words, there's going to be a lot more sugar in the blood. If this is you, do you really want to take a medication to force that sugar that you just vomited back into the cell? Think about it.